This is the Alden Report.
Today's episode is brought to you by FrontRowBenefits.com, connecting consumers and businesses with front row access to the greatest health insurance that the United States has to offer. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. Folks, listen, if you're like me, if you own a business, if you have a family, or if you're an individual and you're looking for front row access to healthcare, maybe you're tired of your premiums going up. Maybe you don't want to pay those high deductibles anymore. Maybe you're tired of paying more and more for your monthly prescriptions, and you want to make sure that you're getting that VIP access, that front row access. Then visit FrontRowBenefits.com and get a free quote. They're connecting consumers and businesses with the top level insurance carriers in the United States at discounted prices. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. That's FrontRowBenefits.com.
This is the Alden Report.
All right. Well, my name is Michael Alden. We are here in Blue Bay Studios. I'm a little dressed down. I mean, sometimes I'm dressed down, sometimes I'm not. I don't have gel in the hair. I'm wearing my Wicked Happy t-shirt. I definitely feel like I'm a little bit dressed down for my next guest. My next guest has been named one of the top lawyers in the United States multiple years in a row. He's been practicing law for over 25 years, and I've known him for a long time as well from the industry that we come from, in the world of direct response, but more specifically within the health and wellness space, within the cosmetic space, dietary supplement space, and also, you know, he's in the world of CBD as well. And so he's one of the smartest guys that I know in this space. And I figured, you know what? I haven't had a lawyer on, I don't believe, a practicing lawyer on in a long time. So I brought Ivan Wasserman on because I just want to have a conversation about what's going on in the world of marketing, what's going on in the world of supplements, cosmetics. You know, we see the proliferation of marketing on social media, and he's an expert in that as well. So we're going to talk to him about the do's, the don'ts, maybe some stories that he can talk about. So it should be interesting. And please help me welcome Ivan Wasserman. Ivan, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I'm still a practicing lawyer, and one day I'll get it right. But I'm pumped. Yeah, and I sort of took the opposite approach. You know, during COVID, as you can see, I'm working from home, so it's rare that I actually put on a suit jacket, but I thought I'd dress like a lawyer just for you.
Well, I appreciate that. I was definitely conflicted. I mean, I think I told you we're here in the studio, and I'm like, I could throw the suit on if I want, but I haven't done that in a long time. But I know you're super busy too, and so I appreciate you being here. And also, I think we had to reschedule because of my fault, but thanks for being here. So, look, man. So you've been practicing law for 25 plus years. You know, like I think a lot of lawyers, you start out at the beginning and then you just kind of rise. Right now, you're a partner at your current law firm, and you specialize, I think, right within the world of cosmetics, dietary supplements, health and wellness stuff. The space that I'm kind of in, and it's a great space to be in. But as a lawyer myself, right. I have seen some pretty horrific things happen to good people, quite frankly, that just made big mistakes. So before we get into all that stuff, tell us a little bit about your background. Like, what was your kind of trajectory? Did you always want to be a lawyer? Like, how did you kind of find this space? Like, how did that whole thing happen?
You know, if you had told me in high school that I was going to be a lawyer and be a lawyer specializing in dietary supplements, no one would have seen that coming. If you want the whole history, my parents, given the religion that I am, Wasserman, I had to be a doctor or a lawyer. I didn't really have too many choices, or else I would disappoint my parents.
And if you were Greek, you'd either have to own a pizza shop or a liquor store.
There you go. Some stereotypes hold true often. I really, those were my sort of two ways that I figured I could make a living. I went to undergrad at Vassar College in New York State. Go Vassar, Poughkeepsie. And I actually majored in cognitive science, which was an early multiple disciplinary major that combined psychology, philosophy, linguistics, and computer science. And at that time, computer science was in its infancy, but sort of artificial intelligence, sort of the study of getting everyone together to figure out how we actually think, which was a fascinating area, but one that it was difficult to earn a living in upon graduation. I also minored in Japanese. This was in the late 80s when Japan was going to take over the world, and I thought that would be a great language to know for my career. Right after that, again, I graduated, didn't quite know what to do, and I got a job as a paralegal in a major New York Wall Street law firm called Skadden Arps. And it was, sort of the biggest firm out there. It's still one of the biggest firms. And I was in their corporate department. I was doing, these mega deals for Drexel Burnham, if you remember that name from back in the day, Michael Milken and all these guys, as a paralegal. So it was not the thing, but, I was running around the world, working 200-hour weeks and having a ball.
Let me just stop right there for a second.
Yeah.
So what people don't understand too, and I think you'll probably admit this, and maybe you won't, but the paralegals are really the ones that are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and you learn so much, especially if you want to go to law school, right? Do you think as someone who's listening right now that maybe they want to be a lawyer, or maybe they're Kim Kardashian and took the baby bar, do you think that maybe kind of to break into the field is maybe to try and get a job as a paralegal is a good idea to kind of expose yourself to the legal profession?
I absolutely do. I really think that anyone should take some time off between undergrad and any kind of graduate degree, just to give yourself some real world experience, some sort of way to put graduate school or any type of advanced degree into context. I saw some kids who went right through from undergrad into law school, and those kids were struggling because they were still in that study mode and they didn't sort of see how everything sort of fit in. But specifically to your question, yeah, I mean, a lot of people see TV or when they say they want to be a lawyer, they're watching either some corporate show like the old LA Law, I'm sure there's the equivalent on now, or they're watching,
Boston Legal,
CSI or Boston Legal. And yeah, exactly. The Good Wife, that was one. You're getting sort of your television drama, and, like their medical dramas, real world law is not like what you see on TV. First of all, we're not all that good looking, myself accepted, of course. But the work is more sort of mundane and more, oftentimes you're not always running to court and solving crime.
I remember sitting down in crim law, right? I was so excited because you see the Law and Orders or some of these other, even like Boston Legal or some of these other legal shows, and I'm like, this is it. This is gonna be so much fun. And it was probably the most boring class in law school in the 4 years I went nights. It was 4 years. It was really, really boring. It was nothing like you would see on TV. I was disappointed.
Yeah. And so then seeing, and when you say law degree, I mean, the types of law you can do with a law degree are so vastly different. I mean, compared to what I was doing as a corporate guy at Skadden, compared to what I'm doing now as a regulatory guy in my boutique, my life and my day-to-day could not be more different. My wife is a litigator. We met in law school, very romantic. And she sues companies for not paying their employees correctly, overtime and stuff like that. And everyone's like, how can you be married to a lawyer? Aren't you like so boring? Sitting around talking about law all the time. First of all, we're talking about the kids and groceries and whatever all the time. But even though we're both lawyers, like you're saying, the practices couldn't be more different. So yeah, I would highly recommend, before jumping into law school, incurring all that debt, all that kind of thing, working at a law firm and secretary, legal assistant, whatever, and sort of making sure A, law is the right thing for you, and then B, getting a sense of different types of law that might be out there.
I think you also, and look, I mean, I hope you have some time because I want to talk to you about really what you do. And I think the people listening right now can really benefit from some of the things you're talking about. It won't be quote legal advice, but you could probably maybe lead them in the right direction and some stuff. But it's interesting too what you said about there are so many things you can do with a law degree. I remember I was selling cars actually, and I was doing well at it. And the owner who went to Columbia and BC, he was like, "Hey, you should just go get your master's. Why don't you come work in the F&I office? You'll make a bunch of money. You can still get your master's at nights and just stay here." And I was like, "Well, no, I really want to get the JD, and I want to see where that takes me." And it was a tough decision because, I grew up pretty poor and they were offering me a lot of money. But the interesting thing, again, that you talked about, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, is that, yeah, you can get that JD, the Juris Doctorate, and not even take the bar, which, by the way, I think is insane, but you could. But like you said, the education that you get as a lawyer, or excuse me, as a law student, is so diverse, right? You, especially now with all the different things coming out with crypto and and cannabis and all these other things, right? It's a great path, like to go down if you want to, right? I mean, I think, because I remember going to law school. I'm sure you guys did too, where you can do like a joint MBA JD degree, which is so crazy because you have zero time. But at the same time, I think when you get that JD, which is maybe a year or 2 more years, you have a little bit more options, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, you have some more options and career paths, and like you said, if you're going just for success in life and education, law touches on everything everyone does all the time. So having that this foundation is going to obviously be a benefit in anything you do throughout your life, whether it's business or family or whatever. Laws are all around us, whether we like it or not. And then law school also teaches, I think, you a critical thinking, a way of thinking about a fact pattern. It gives you oral advocacy skills, which are going to be, if you're in sales, oral advocacy skills are what you need. And you get a lot of that specific training. At the end of the day, if you're a trial lawyer, my wife is, I'm not, you're selling to that jury, you're selling to that judge, and having that experience in making your case, making your points effectively, or something you learn in law school, which is going to carry you no matter what you do, I think.
Yeah, I obviously couldn't agree more. Again, we're on with Ivan Wasserman. Ivan is a partner at Amin Talati Wasserman. If you'd like some more information about about Ivan, we haven't got into really what I really want to talk to him about. But I just wanted to give that foundation, which is important within law, especially when you're in a depot. If you'd like some more information about Ivan Wasserman, you could just go to amintalati.com. It's AMINTALATI.com. He's also pretty active on Instagram, and you can just tell he's got a personality too. That's also why I wanted to have him on, because quite frankly, and I think you might agree with this, maybe you won't because you're practicing, I think a lot of lawyers are just dicks, and they're just focused and just on what the law is, and they're not able to kind of see the bigger picture in business. And that's also why I wanted to have you on, because as a lawyer myself who practiced for, I don't know, many years, I was in-house counsel for, who it was, for a bit of a crazy company, but my job was so diverse as well. But one of the biggest things is I learned pretty quickly is my job was not to stop them. It was to try and show them the path, at least the best path, or what have you, the path that's defensible. A lot of time we used to use within that company. But you work with a lot of marketers in a diverse, you have a diverse background, but primarily focused on like health and wellness. Talk a little bit about really the importance of having a lawyer like yourself that is business savvy, that understands business. Like, that your job is not to kill the deal. And because I think a lot of people say, oh, lawyer's going to fuck it up, or the lawyer's just going to kill it, or what have you. And a lot of lawyers do. A lot of them do, because they don't get business. You're the opposite, I believe. And that's why I think I like you so much, because you work with the marketers and like, hey, this is how you should do it, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the compliments, and I think that's exactly right. There's different types of law. If you're an employment lawyer or a tax lawyer, it's a little bit more cut and dry, a lot of what you're going to do. But if you're a deal lawyer, like negotiating a contract with someone, or if you're what I do, which is very unique, I think, in the great world, is help people sell products, right? And we can talk about the laws around dietary supplements or cosmetics, but what you can say about them is regulated by a lot of people and get you in trouble. So I don't want to be the enemy of the marketers. I don't want to be the enemy of the in-house counsel. I want to be part of the team, and I want to help them get to a point where everyone's comfortable selling products. If you, I used to do more on-set infomercial work that we talked about, and there was one guy whose name I won't mention, but a very flamboyant cosmetic marketer or brand. He was the name of the brand. And I forget exactly what he wanted to do, but he wanted to, basically say, if you smear this crud on your forehead, it wasn't crud, it was nice stuff. It would eliminate all your wrinkles or something. And he wants to say this. The producer comes over to me, and all of a sudden I hear in the background, well, if Mr. Policeman over there will let me say it, we can sell the product. I don't want to be seen as the policeman, but I also don't want the company to make stupid mistakes again. Yeah, saying no is no fun at all. It takes no creativity. Saying yes with a creative solution to a marketing challenge, what makes my job fun, and why I think we have happy clients that come back to us, and lots of clients that come to us and say their old lawyer just kept saying no and didn't offer a solution to get there.
Yeah, and so that's again what I think the big misconception that people have with lawyers, and I also think that people make the huge mistake knowing that they know that they probably should consult a lawyer, but they don't because they don't want to ruin what they have or what have you. But deep down inside, something's probably telling them that they probably should have a lawyer at least look at it, right? And then they don't, and then of course the regulatory bodies come and then like you and I talked before we went live, then it might be too late. You might not be able to fix it, and so obviously I know you would agree, but for those listening, again, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business people, a lot of entrepreneurs, and we have a lot of supplement marketers that listen to this as well. It's better to have a lawyer in the beginning than when the regulatory bodies come knocking, because I've been on both sides, and it's not fun when they're knocking.
Yeah, I mean, from an expense perspective, obviously, hiring a qualified lawyer from the get-go, is not free, but it from an expense perspective, it's easy to say, but it's very true. It's a lot cheaper to keep you out of trouble than to get you out of trouble. Once you're in trouble, your legal bills will pile up much quicker. And yeah, I mean, the thing for an entrepreneur, maybe they know they're taking risks, and they don't need a lawyer to tell them, because even if the lawyer says you're taking risks or doing something not by the book, you're going to do it anyway. But where I really get, concerned is where people don't even know they're taking risks, right? They just assume everything's okay, or they think this is wrong, but they think this is right. So I can't tell you how many times I've been on calls with people and they just didn't understand the risk they were taking, and they didn't understand how easy it was to mitigate or eliminate the risk by changing 3 words or changing one dosage level of a particular ingredient in your supplement. Little tweaks. Knowing that the phone still got a ring, the product still has to fly off the shelf. I'm not trying to kill a product, but little tweaks, can really make a difference. And so I think it's money. Selfishly, I think it's money well spent, but I think, as you're saying, it's actually money.
Well, the thing too that I use the analogy, when I played football in high school and college, I played offensive line in high school, and then defensive line in college. And really the only time, especially on the offensive side, the only time that anyone really pays attention is when you miss the block, right? Mm-hmm. But as lawyers, a lot of times it's hard for people to even see, because if nobody comes and you were involved in the beginning, then you've done your job, right? Right. But if they do come and you also are there as well, it gives the marketer and the business entity a little bit more coverage, so to speak, and just even a little bit more leverage, knowing that, hey, we had a lawyer to help us and what have you. I think a lot of, again, marketers, they don't see the value in it, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because I think it is important for marketers and business people to have a lawyer, look at stuff. There's a lot of kind of cool stuff that's come out. I'll use cool kind of kind of broadly. But you have things like, was it LegalZoom and stuff like that? And people think, oh, well, I can just pull some sort of template contract and just use that myself because I'm trying to save money. But like you said, the challenge is, and this is why lawyers exist, they don't even know the mistakes that they're making because they're not a lawyer. Right?
I think that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And especially in these grayer areas that I practice in, absolutely. And everything's changing so fast too. We can talk about class actions and stuff like that. So working with someone who sort of has their pulse, their finger on the pulse of the current threats from an enforcement perspective, be it regulators like the FDA and the FTC, competitors, or a growing consumer class actions, which we can talk about, is going to be key to your long-term survival. Yeah, you might make some short-term profits without a lawyer, but long-term, you're going to maybe give that money back or worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to. So we talk about the world changing, right? So I grew up in this world of dietary supplements. It's funny, my background. I think you know a little bit about it, but I was taking ginseng when I was in high school before anyone knew what it was, and a lot of these supplements. In fact, there's one supplement store in my hometown is still there. They've been there forever, and so I've always kind of been in that world, and I kind of was thrown into the fire at my old company, which was a great experience as a lawyer. But yeah, the world is changing so quickly, and right now it's not as hot as it used to be, but it's still changing and evolving. Is CBD? You and I talked a little bit about CBD. I'll tell you a mistake that I made in 2015, I think 2015. So I had a network marketing company that I owned. And we launched a full spectrum CBD product in 2015, pre-Farm Bill. And I didn't have my legal hat on, quite frankly, plain and simple. I made a mistake. I had the marketing side, and I was like, it's hemp seed. Like, this is, it's grass. We're not making any claims, and no problem. Like, we're not going to have any issue. Well, we didn't have any regulatory issues because we didn't make any claims, because we're pretty good at that. But my merchant processor didn't like what we were doing. And that turned into fucking hell on earth for us. We lost all of our merchant processing almost overnight. And we were treated like criminals, right? Ultimately, the business had to shut down. And quite frankly, it was a mistake that I made. And you know what? And the other part too that people don't understand is if I did have someone like yourself or what have you, and you said, hey, Mike, you probably can't do this. I know others are, but you probably shouldn't. I could have at least been advised, right? Because you can only advise, to make that decision and know the risks. I honestly looked at it real quick, had my kind of pseudo legal hat on, and this is kind of the world that I practiced in. I'm like, yeah, it's hemp oil, and it's no big deal. And I was obviously, I don't think I was wrong, but I was just wrong by how my merchant processor would look at it. And so let's talk a little bit about CBD in particular. And all the things that are going on right now, which it seems like we're going to get some sort of clarity, and then the administration changed, and then everything kind of went backwards. What's going on in the world of CBD? If someone's selling CBD right now, like, what are they selling? It's not classified as anything, is it? I mean, I think I know the answer, but I just love to hear from somebody who's really doing it. Like, what's going on? What are we going to see? For people listening, what are some things that they should be doing as far as like good practices?
Yeah. Let me just make one thing, and then we'll get to CBD. And to your point of, you probably were on the internet and you saw other people doing stuff and you figured you can do it. And trust me, I get that all the time. I tell someone that what they want to do is illegal, and then they send me 14 websites of someone doing what I just told them. And my analogy, of course, is a common one. Well, first of all, you got 1,000 people going 90 miles an hour on the Massachusetts Turnpike. You've heard of that, right? The cop can't pull over everyone because there's too many cars speeding. You're going 75, everyone else is going 90. The cop pulls you over. Is that cop ever going to say, when you tell them, but everyone else is going 90, and let you go without a ticket? No. And that's the thing. And the same thing is with the FDA, the same things with the FTC and others. So A, FDA can't go after everyone. B, they might be actually being investigated, and you don't know because it's non-public until it's public, until they actually take enforcement action. And that gives me a lot of pleasure when someone says, what about these guys? And then a month later, we see that the FDA has issued them some kind of fine or something when I told them they couldn't do it. So just going on the internet and seeing what other people are doing and copying it is not the same as having a lawyer tell you whether it's okay or not, because maybe it is, but maybe it isn't, and you didn't know what you were doing, wasn't okay from more conservative folks like the merchant processors. So that's the first thing. The second thing, just is sort of interesting historically, why all this has come about. So historically, the Dietary Supplement Act, under which ginseng is sold, under which CBD is sold, and we'll talk about that, was enacted in 1994. And that, that was sort of the first year that allowed for herbal products, vitamin products to make what's called structure function claims, and we can talk about that. But before that, those would have been considered drugs, and you couldn't sell them. So, what else? What was a baby in 1994? The internet, right? So the internet barely didn't exist. So when Congress passed the Dietary Supplement Act in 1994, the only way to get a dietary supplement to the mass market was to get it into a health food store. It was hard to sell it, or a mass merchandiser or something. So the internet sort of exploded over the next decade with this law that allowed these products to go on the market without any kind of FDA pre-review like a drug would be. And that's sort of where we find ourselves in today. It's a very low entry to launch a product, as opposed to a pharmaceutical that has to get FDA approval, because you don't have to get into Target or anywhere. You can just put up a website. So there's a lot of stuff on the website which may or may not be legal.
Clarify one thing that you said too. I think a lot of people say, well, it's not approved by the FDA, therefore I'm not going to buy it, or I shouldn't take it. And I have a response to that. But what's your response to people who say, oh, well, it's not approved by the FDA, therefore it's shit, or therefore it's illegal? That's not how the world works.
That's not how the world works, and it drives me crazy when I hear dietary supplements aren't regulated.
They drives me crazy too.
It drives me crazy, and I wouldn't have my vacation house in Maine if that was the case. So yeah, no, they are regulated by FDA. Absolutely, there's strict standards on what can go in the products, how they're made, called good manufacturing practices. There are strict requirements on what has to be on the label. There's strict requirements on the claims you're allowed to make. The difference is, like other types of food, and there's unlike drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, which have to go through before you launch a product, it has to be reviewed and approved by FDA. Supplements and foods, for the most part, don't have to be. So a company can launch a product, and if there's a problem with the product, FDA, because they're not following the regulations, FDA can and does all the time come down hard on the company. But to your point, and to my earlier point, until that happens, they can keep selling the product, and so there's a lot of not great products out there. So it's imperative on any consumers out there to do their homework, to buy from a reputable company, to buy from a company you trust, ask the right questions, get recommendations from doctors or trusted healthcare people, because there is a lot of people out there that aren't following these strict regulations that exist, unlike pharmaceuticals. But if it's a reputable company, they're following the FDA regulations to a T.
The thing too is I think people, again, if they don't understand, we talk about strict regulations, but it's also not that difficult to comply with the Food and Drug Cosmetic Act or DSHEA. It's just really not. But they are there. There are standards that do exist, and the FDA, like you said, and the FTC do in fact regulate dietary supplements. They don't prevent them from entering the stream of commerce first, but they do regulate it. And so that's the thing, a big misconception, like you said, that drives me crazy as well. So CBD. Yeah,
should I just jump in now?
let's jump into what's going on in this space, because it's changing. It was super hot now, and there's all these different variants and Delta 8 and all this other stuff that's going on with it. But I'd love to just let's talk about CBD. Let's talk about where we are, the regulatory framework as we sit here in December of 2021. What's going on? What are we looking at in the future? All that stuff.
So CBD in dietary supplements, in some ways is very unique, and in some ways is really not different than anything else. So CBD is unique in that it's associated with marijuana, and before some case law and things, which I don't want to get too in the weeds. I just thought of that, pun intended.
You're a funny guy. So that's why you're here. You're a funny guy. You're funny, haha.
Remind me to tell your audience about my probiotic comedy app before we sign off. Anyway, so under the Drug Enforcement Act, marijuana or anything derived from marijuana is a controlled substance federally. Every state, as we can talk about, pot, Get High pot is doing their own thing, but federally it's still a controlled substance. It's still illegal. Case law evolved that said if it's hemp, which is the same, I'm not a botanist or horticulturist, but it's related to the
it all falls
plants.
within the cannabis, because the way I look at it, you have cannabis and then you have marijuana and hemp. That's how I like to draw that. So you have the two, right? So go ahead. Yep.
They're both cannabis plants and phylum, genus, species, whatever the horticultural stuff is. But yeah, so if it's true hemp, and you're deriving something from that hemp, it's not considered a controlled substance, not subject to the Drug Enforcement Administration's regulation. Okay, so any legal, sort of federally legal CBD out there or hemp is derived from hemp, not marijuana. And one of the main things is the THC, which is the stuff that gets you high. The levels are low in hemp.
And now before we go in further, the thing that kind of gets people in the weeds are a little bit complicated. Right now, you're talking about DEA standards. You're talking about the guys that come blazing with guns that are seizing cocaine, heroin, meth. So that's where we're talking about right now. But then there's all these other government agencies. And
right. So once you're dealing with something that's not a controlled substance, you're dealing with something derived from the hemp plant, not the marijuana plant. Then you're out of the DEA. You still got the FDA to consider. So the FDA regulates anything you're eating, basically, or anything you're rubbing on your skin. Yes, generally those are the two main categories. So eating, it's either going to be a food or a dietary supplement, and there's different laws and regulations on what can be included in either of those types of products from a safety standard and otherwise. So why is CBD derived from hemp different from ginseng, different from any number of herbal ingredients on the market? If you go to any GNC or natural food store, you go down the aisle, you'll see ginkgo, you'll see ginseng, you'll see all sorts of things. What makes CBD different? The only thing that makes CBD different is a provision under the law, the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which says if an ingredient is studied for a drug use under a drug application that's approved by the FDA, before it's ever been included in a dietary supplement, boom, forever, it can't be in a dietary supplement. It's called an exclusionary provision. And that provision exists not for safety reasons, but to encourage pharmaceutical companies to do research, right? We all want pharmaceutical companies to do research. Research is incredibly expensive. And we want them to be able to recoup their investment, or else they won't spend billions of dollars to do research to find therapeutic things for our diseases and things like that. So there was a company called GW Pharma, which isolated CBD from, I don't know if it's from hemp or not, but it doesn't really matter. It's isolated CBD and applied to the Food and Drug Administration to study it for epileptic seizures in children or patients, I guess, who weren't responding to traditional epilepsy medicine. And they got that study approved. They ultimately got the drug approved by FDA. And that was done, or at least the study was done, arguably in FDA's mind, before CBD was introduced to the United States market as a dietary supplement. You following me?
Oh, listen, I know that. I know the history. I wanted you as an authority.
Yes.
As a practicing wicked smart lawyer. By the way, we're on with Ivan Wasserman. Ivan is an old friend. He's a practicing attorney. He's somebody that I've consulted with throughout the years and just had a lot of conversations about this space. He is an expert within the world of dietary supplements, marketing as well, not just dietary supplements, not just cosmetics, but in the world generally in marketing. He's got over 25 plus years within this space. He's been ranked as one of the top lawyers in the United States multiple years, over and over and over and over again. If you'd like some more information about Ivan, if you like what you're saying, for some people this might be kind of boring, but I tell people all the time, it's the non-sexy stuff in business that, quite frankly, is probably the most important stuff in especially in the very, very beginning. So if you'd like some more information about Ivan, you can just check him out. He's a partner at Amin Talati in Wasserman, and the website is AMINTALATI.com. You can find his profile there. His email address is right on there as well. Send him an email. By the way, the thing that people understand, it's not going to cost you anything to send him an email. Probably it's not going to cost you anything for him to pick up the phone and have a quick little call as well. But it could save you thousands, if not millions, if you do have someone like Ivan on your side. Because the other thing too is we'll get back into what we're talking about is not only does he have all this experience within this space and knows what he's talking about, but he also does know the people on the other side that could really fuck up your world. Not to say that it's going to make it easier, but he knows them. He has conversations with them every day. It does make it somewhat easier to have a conversation and to maybe even kind of preempt some kind of pretty nasty shit that could happen because of the relationships that he's built, because of the knowledge that he has, and also the respect that he has within this space. And he was like, "Hey, man, thanks for that. Thanks for all that stuff. But I just know you, and I know that's that's who you are." Today's episode is brought to you by FrontRowBenefits.com, connecting consumers and businesses with front row access to the greatest health insurance that the United States has to offer. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. Folks, listen, if you're like me, if you own a business, if you have a family, or if you're an individual and you're looking for front row access to healthcare, maybe you're tired of your premiums going up. Maybe you don't want to pay those high deductibles anymore. Maybe you're tired of paying more and more for your monthly prescriptions, and you want to make sure that you're getting that VIP access, that front row access, then visit FrontRowBenefits.com and get a free quote. They're connecting consumers and businesses with the top level insurance carriers in the United States at discounted prices. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. That's FrontRowBenefits.com. Again, all right. So talking about CBD, we're talking about where we're at. We're talking about right now the FDA's position kind of on CBD.
Right. So yeah, sorry, I didn't interrupt, but I was just concerned when you said I'm not sexy, but that's a different story.
Listen, hold on. I didn't say that you weren't sexy. I didn't say that you weren't. I said it's the non-sexy stuff that you do.
There you go.
That's really important. So
because I think we're both very sexy, but that's enough.
Don't take it personally.
No.
But honestly, the two of us, I'm way sexier. It's just plain.
Oh, come on now. Can we pull the audience somehow? Maybe in that t-shirt. So that's the only funky thing about CBD that's causing all this confusion. It's the fact that another company, before it was on the market as a supplement, got a drug approved. So now FDA is stuck because of the law, and they've told the industry, hey, this is the law, this is the situation, you just can't use CBD in a dietary supplement because of this law. And they've issued many, many warning letters to many companies selling CBD. The primary reason why CBD companies are getting in trouble with the FDA, though, is something else. As Mike knows all too well, and what makes supplements different than drugs is supplements cannot claim to treat, cure, or prevent a disease.
We call those in the industry health claims or disease claims. That's what us lawyers call them.
You cannot make a health claim or a disease claim. So you can't say that your supplement treats epilepsy. You can't say that your supplement even treats pain. Pain is considered a disease. You can't say your supplement treats insomnia, but you can say that it supports sleep. So you can't claim that it treats a disease, but you can claim to affect, this is going to put everyone to sleep, affect the structure or function of the body, which is two words that aren't used in common parlance very often, but us lawyers and those in the industries
I think
structure function claims.
I think another thing too, though, I do want to interrupt, is what I find in this space, because I'm in the CBD space.
Yeah.
We do sell CBD. Is that there's a lot of, and I know these people, right? Because I've go to the conferences, and a lot of them are such zealous advocates, as we are as lawyers, of this plant, of this medicine that they're referring to it as, that they have so much what we would call anecdotal evidence. I gave it to my next door neighbor and they were in pain and they're no longer in pain. He gave it to his friend, same thing. We just keep giving it to everybody and it keeps doing all this. Therefore we're going to make those claims. That anecdotal data that you have is not going to really protect you at all. And I think that's what a lot of people think. Oh, well, I have the greatest products, ever. And I've given it to everybody, and therefore it's great. But that's just not the case, and that part must frustrate you as well. So you're talking about structure function claims. You're talking about disease claims against stuff that again, the non-sexy. You're sexy, but the non-sexy stuff we're talking about. So what's getting people in trouble, like you said, is they're going out and they're making these insane, like panacea type claims. They're saying that it cures fucking everything, and that's what's really, really kind of getting a lot of people in trouble, right?
Yeah, that's the primary thing that is getting people in trouble. People have to understand, I mean, it's America, right? We got the First Amendment. We can say whatever the hell we want. And that is true, but there's a limit to it. If you're only, I know you write a lot of books. I know you write a lot of amazing books that I'm actually helping in my firm to manage it better. If you're just selling a book, right? If you're just selling a book, you can say, CBD cures everything under the sun. That's the First Amendment. It's protected. You can really say almost anything you want, and the government can't go after you because you're only talking, essentially, you're only giving information. However, once you start making a commercial product and selling it based on words you're saying, whether it's in a book, maybe if they connect it, or certainly what's on the label or on the e-com website, that isn't free speech. That's not fully protected by the First Amendment. And the FDA and others can go after you if that's either making it a drug by saying it treats, cures, or prevents a disease, in which case you have to get it approved as a drug, just like the COVID vaccine or anything else out there. Or if it's not, like you're saying, supported by adequate science. Anything, the Federal Trade Commission and others require that anything you say your product can do be supported by adequate science, which is typically double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials. Just because your friends like it and it did something, just because no one's ever asked for their money back, right? Just because people are staying on auto deliveries and not canceling, none of that is going to satisfy if someone demands proof for any of your claims. And we can talk about social media and influencers, even if if I have a supplement company and I give the product to Mike to try for free, let's say, and he takes the product and it makes him even sexier than he already is, if that's possible. If he then goes on social media and says, this product made me sexier, and I gave him that product for free, so there's a connection between us, he can get in trouble and I can get in trouble if I don't have a study showing that my product improves sexiness. Was that everyone like that?
Well, and so again, this is why I do still love the law, because we're actually talking about something that is a kind of even the sexier part. That in particular, this kind of law school conversation we're having is outside of a structure function claim. It's outside of a disease claim. It's more of what we would call like a comparison claim or a superiority type claim. And so if there wasn't any research to prove that I was in fact sexier by taking the product, that in and of itself might not bring the FDA, but it would bring the FTC for some sort of unfair and deceptive trade practices. So all right. So let's come back to CBD again. So right now we're still in this gray area. I mean, as far as the FDA is concerned, and maybe we can talk about the three different types of CBD if we want, isolate, full spectrum, broad spectrum. But so right now, as far as the FDA is concerned, CBD is still a drug. But again, when you said earlier, oh well, Billy down the street's doing it. I mean, you go to every fucking gas station in the country, they're selling some sort of CBD somewhere. You got huge companies, like Groupon that are just selling, CBD gummies all over the place. You go to GNC, you go to Rite Aid, you go to pretty much almost all the drugstores now, including Walgreens and CVS. Certain ones are selling CBD. So everybody's selling it, but the FDA is saying it's a drug. Like, what's going on here? And how is it going to be fixed? Are we going to get some sort of clarity? Because in theory, the FDA could come after all these major companies and bring the rat, and they would win.
Yeah. Just there's one nuance. I think a lot of the major retailers you mentioned are still staying topical CBD, like cream, and the rules are different. So that exclusionary rule that I talked about for the drug doesn't apply to cosmetics. So anything you see with a CBD in a cosmetic, is it under a different, in a topical, is it in a different category? But your point is well taken on the oral, because there's plenty of that out there. And yeah, so FDA writes these, what they're called warning letters. And if you go to fda.gov, you can search CBD and you'll see all the warning letters that they've issued. It's very sort of user friendly. And you'll see that most of the warning letters start with what we talked about. Your product's illegal because it claims it treats cancer, it claims it treats, insomnia or something. And also, by the way, your product's illegal because it has CBD, and CBD is not in your product, or not allowed in supplements. And the companies, by and large, including big ones, basically stop making those claims, but they don't stop selling the product. And thus far, FDA has not taken action. So you're right, FDA could at any point take action. I think that they think, the cat's out of the bag seems to not do the analogy right, whatever the herd of elephants is out of the zoo. I don't know what
the genie is out of the bottle, is what I said.
The genie's out of the bottle. And I think FDA, to their credit, probably doesn't think there's a huge safety risk here. And if they did, we'd be in a different situation. And I think they're just think it's almost too big, and they're hoping for some type of legal solution. And there's bills pending in Congress to sort of either make CBD legal in food or supplements, or sort of force FDA to figure out how to do it. And that might happen. In the meantime, yeah, it's still, merchant processors are still a little bit shy, depending on them, and it's still a little bit tough. And then in the meantime, in the absence of federal regulation, which we've seen time and time again, each state is doing its own thing. So each state is sort of deciding what laws are going to apply to CBD products sold in their particular state. And my firm actually keeps a running tab of this. We have a report of what's current situation in all 50 states. Some states only allow it in topical or in food. Some states require you to have like a QR code on there so you can see the certificate of analysis that shows that THC is below a certain level. California just finally allowed it to be included in dietary supplements. So like marijuana, which I think we're more familiar with, the sort of state by state weird patchwork thing, every state's doing its own CBD laws, which is a pain in the ass for someone who wants to sell a product nationally. So I think people hope for some type of federal preemption over all these various state laws, so you can have one label, one set of rules, and sell nationally. But we're not there today.
Do you think that because again, during the Trump administration, there was some chatter that there was going to be some sort of clarity, and then the Biden administration came in, and then it just kind of went silent. But do you think that we will get any sort of clarity, or is the FDA maybe just waiting for Congress to act? Because, like you said, there are some bills that would make it, pretty clear that it would be legal to sell as a dietary supplement. What are your thoughts? Any ideas on timing? Like where are we at?
Yeah. So, if I had a good crystal ball, I would use it. It's tough to say. I think FDA, they're stuck with a law.
Looking like a true lawyer right there.
Yeah. I don't know. I can say that, as a taxpayer, as much as I love CBD. I want the FDA to be focused on COVID right now and other priorities. The new commissioner of the FDA is actually this week, I think, having Senate confirmation hearings. And everyone in the industry is like, well, what's his position on CBD? What's his position on supplements? He might get that question, but the FDA is a massive organization, and the supplement division has like 20 people. I'm making that up, and the drug division has 4,000 or something like that. And so it's probably not at the highest levels. CBD is not going to be a focus, especially during COVID. So I don't expect FDA to be jumping all over the CBD issue. I could be wrong. Hopefully the folks in Congress will push it. It's interesting because hemp is a huge cash crop and tobacco is a declining cash crop. So you've got, folks like McConnell and others in Kentucky and Virginia and the other sort of big tobacco states, are seeing tobacco sales go down as people stop smoking cigarettes, and those fields could just as easily be planting hemp, which is a big category. And right now, the most valuable thing that comes out of hemp are the cannabinoids like CBD and the other ones. So there is a push to get this legalized and let business go, but I don't know how soon it's going to happen. I also don't expect FDA to all of a sudden start aggressively enforcing. I think they'll continue to enforce claims, against disease claims, but I don't see them just jumping the gun and start seizing CBD products that's not making claims.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, I think the genie is out of the bottle. I think it's going to be impossible for them to unwind or claw back or any of the stuff that they could try and do. It's just, what I think is going to happen. I think because of GW, I think there will be some sort of ruling somewhere where they will declare that CBD isolate is in fact a drug. And the other two are not, and so therefore, if you're selling isolate, which a lot of people are, then you are selling a drug, because it just does. Look, as someone who's been selling dietary supplements for 20 years, it just makes sense as well. Like you mentioned way earlier, because if the FDA were to come out and say all CBD is now considered a dietary supplement, it would have a severe chilling effect on the pharmaceutical industry as a whole, not just in the CBD space, because GW did in fact spend, who knows, hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever to get that drug approved. They did do all the stuff, they did do all the studies, and for them to then quote lose would be a real problem for the economy as well. So it's a much bigger issue than I think a lot of people understand. Than just, oh, well, the government is just screwing us. No, that's not the case. Like you said, there was a path. GW, I don't agree with it. I think CBD essentially was marketed way before, just it wasn't called CBD, but it is what it is now. I think that's what's going to happen, and it would just make sense, and I think it would be a happy medium too. Okay, broad spectrum, full spectrum, those are not considered drugs. Isolate is. I don't know. That's my
certainly possible, because that's what they got. It depends how the law defines article. That's what was approved. Broad spectrum wasn't approved as a drug. It's a good it's a possibility.
Yeah. So again, we've been on with Ivan Wasserman. He is, if you've been listening to him for a while or watching him, one, he's sexy, right? He's got his nice blazer on. I'm rocking the t-shirt. I was debating whether or not I was going to try and act a little bit more like a lawyer. Like my ex-wife told me, you're a lawyer now, you need to start acting like it. Nah, I'm still going to be me. But if you'd like some more information about Ivan and his firm, he's been practicing for over 25 years. And again, the reason why I wanted to have him on, just like all the other people that have been on the podcast, we have real people doing real things, making a real impact, and that are also experts within their field. This guy's been at it for 25 years. We've had multiple conversations offline about what he does. In fact, when I was in-house counsel at the company I worked for, I consulted with him at a different firm that he was at, and some of his partners as well. So the guy really knows his stuff. And again, it's not just health and wellness products. I would put you in a broader category as well as marketing. And again, I think lawyers do get a bad name for that they're going to kill the deal or that they're going to screw things up. And you know what? Some of them do. And the reason why some of them do, in my opinion, is they're actually not schooled in what Ivan is. In other words, they don't understand business. They don't understand marketing. And they also may not even understand more specifically what he is 100% considered an expert and authority in, which is health and wellness products, cosmetics, dietary supplements. So if you'd like some more information about Ivan, you can check him out at his website. He's a partner at Amin Talati and Wasserman. The website is AMINTALATI.com. Hey, what's your email address? Do you want to give out your email address? I mean, why not? It's right on your website, right? What's your email
Sure.
address?
It's Ivan, just my first name at amintalati.com.
All right.
AMINTALTI. And the other way to, not to find me, but to be entertained by me, if you were entertained during this podcast, if you go to YouTube, I don't know if you've done this, Mike, and search Probiotic Comic. Shockingly, I'm the only one that comes up, and I've done a probiotic stand-up comedy set in Las Vegas trade shows a few years in a row. And you're looking at, for those of you just listening, Mike's looking at me like, "Are you kidding me?" It's true.
Well, here's the thing. So that is in your bio on your website.
It is.
And that's, again, another reason why I think that I like you, because, by the way, I did stand-up comedy for 3 years straight. I performed.
Wow.
I performed at the LA Improv. I performed at a couple of the ERA events in San Diego. I performed.
You performed at the LA Improv. You blew me away. I've only done the Probiotic Resource Center at the Supply Side West trade shows.
Yeah, I was nuts, man. I was whenever I traveled, I would try and get stage time. I was really into, Forbes Riley, by the way. So Forbes, so I know you know, but she was a stand-up comic at the Comedy Store, and I didn't know.
Wow.
Dinner one night, and she was telling me, yeah. So
have you ever been more scared walking up to a mic doing stand-up comedy? It terrifies me, but I do it.
Well, see, I was about to say that. Let's talk a little bit. I was going to let you go, but let's talk a little bit about that. And the interesting thing about stand-up comedy, like a lot of things that I kind of dive into, is that, one, I thought it was funny, right? It was a joke. It was a bet, me and my buddy. I did it, and I killed. At least I thought I did, and everyone laughed or whatever. And it's so intoxicating, first of all. But it is, like you said, it is also me shaking and just gut wrenching and so nerve wracking. But it does teach you how to literally speak on your feet. Look, if you can make a room of people that you don't know laugh, then I think you're winning, and you take that skill set and you use it in your just traditional speaking gigs. It's such a great thing. And so if you think you're funny and you want to do a set, give it a shot. Like I said, I did it for 3 years straight, dude. Like, I mean, so that time in the Improv, so it was at the Improv, and then I went from the Improv to Santa Monica and performed at the Fifth Street. I think it's called the Fifth Street Comedy Club right there on in the back of the promenade. Yeah, and I just loved it. What I love about it, man, so many things, but the skill involved in comedy is just remarkable. You can be funny, and there's a lot of funny guys at parties, but to be able to be funny on stage is a different thing. Okay.
I mean, I did not do the level you did. I only speak in front of friendly audiences, which might be stupid because my clients are in the audience and stuff like that. But yeah, I give lectures all the time, as you know, to on regulatory topics, and not the least butterfly in my stomach. But walking out there, knowing you can't just blabber on, you have to hit the punchline, or else the whole thing is just ruined. It's just so nerve-wracking, and it makes you appreciate that the really great ones. How much it looks. Dave Chappelle, whatever. Chris Rock. They make it look easy, but it takes so much work to get to that level. I can't even imagine.
It does, and I did see that, and I love, again, this is, I love the fact that you put that on your professional profile.
It's a gamble. It's a gamble.
Well, granted, you are a partner there, so you can do what you want, but at the same time, I'm sure your other partners would probably have to, if they didn't like it, they'd tell you, no, we're going to take this thing down. But it just shows that you're a real person doing real things. And you have a real life as well. And again, I think a lot of lawyers, I think some of it's true. I think a lot of lawyers are just really stuffy, and they're just so like, hey, I'm smarter than you, and I'm really book smart, and I'm just going to here's the answers. It's life is not cut and dry, and neither is the law. And so there are certain things that are black and white, but for the most part, you can interpret the law however you want, especially if you're looking for someone to interpret the law or help you, at least put you in a position that is the right position to be in. You're one of those guys. There are a few others that I know you obviously know within our space that I think are like that. And so listen, if you'd like some more information about Ivan, if you want to check out his comedy routine, you can actually just click right to it from his website, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So you can go to amintalati.com, AMINTALATI.com. It's Ivan Wasserman, IVANWASSERMAN. By the way, you're the second Wasserman that I had on. I had Mark Wasserman on, who, do you know who he is?
I do. He's the
Pod Brothers-in-Law.
Shut the fuck up, right?
Yeah, I just realized, I was like, oh shit, you're the second, because I forget that he's actually a practicing lawyer. So I had him on as well. So
when I saw him, and it might have been from your podcast, I was like, that's interesting, and we linked in and had a couple little things back and forth. Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
Dude, he's him and his brother, what they're doing is entertaining, but
yeah,
I had him on the podcast, and it was just it's really interesting to see what he's doing, and really, like, what a great advocate. His story's kind of cool as well. So listen, man, I want to thank you for coming on. I could talk to you for hours. Like you said, we probably would maybe bore people. I don't know. But so again, if you'd like some more information about Ivan, again, check out the website, amintalati.com. Send him an email, pick up the phone, give him a call, leave him a message. Here's the thing. Don't just call him just to get fucking free advice. That shit drives me crazy. If you have a question and you have a legitimate concern, pick up the phone, give him a call. And see if you can help. Again, my name is Mike Alden. That's Ivan Wasserman, and we'll see you soon. Today's episode is brought to you by FrontRowBenefits.com, connecting consumers and businesses with front row access to the greatest health insurance that the United States has to offer. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. Folks, listen, if you're like me, if you own a business, if you have a family, or if you're an individual and you're looking for front row access to healthcare, maybe you're tired of your premiums going up. Maybe you don't want to pay those high deductibles anymore. Maybe you're tired of paying more and more for your monthly prescriptions, and you want to make sure that you're getting that VIP access, that front row access. Then visit FrontRowBenefits.com and get a free quote. They're connecting consumers and businesses with the top level insurance carriers in the United States at discounted prices. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. That's FrontRowBenefits.com.